Hey guys, Koukl, Chapter 7. I'm going to start with the conclusion so that you can have an idea of what we will be covering. So basically, in this chapter we learn that I don't have to do all the work and make all the effort all the time. Sometimes other people's erroneous views are self-defeating and self-refuting. Okay, so contradictory statements absolutely cannot be resurrected. They're dead, they can't be helped. Okay, they are necessarily false. So what we have to learn to do is we need to learn to pay attention to the basic claim or conviction that the person is making. And if it applies to itself, then it must either satisfy its own criteria or there's an internal contradiction. And when you do discover a problem, remember the Columbo tactic. Use a question to point it out, not a statement. Okay, that's the essence of what we're learning today. So Koukl teaches that some statements just have a way of crushing themselves. They're self-destruct, they are self-refuting, they defeat themselves. And you actually don't need to argue with the person. You just need to be able to point it out and then let the situation unfold. So a self-destructing statement has within itself the seeds of its own destruction. For example, if I say all English sentences are false, all right, this statement cannot, it falls on its own sword. It cannot satisfy its own standard, right? So if the statement cannot meet its own criteria of validity, then it is self-refuting. Some more examples from Koukl. Things like there is no truth. Okay, if there's no truth, is the statement true? Same with there are no absolutes. Then what is the statement? Is it making a statement about absolutes? Or how about no one can know any truth about religion? Well, then you can ask, how precisely did you come to know the truth about religion? To make the statement that no one can know the truth about religion. So you guys are getting the point. Or you can't know anything for sure. Okay, are you sure about that? Okay, so things like talking about God is meaningless. Okay, well then what does this very statement mean? Okay, you're getting the idea. That's basically what this chapter is about. And Koukl calls it the suicide tactic. And it works because we all actually hold to the fact that things should not contradict one another. Okay, we hold to that. It's our common sense. We understand that contradictory statements cannot be true at the same time. You cannot have milk in the fridge and no milk in the fridge. Okay, the law of non-contradiction says that that statement is not working. So I asked ChatGPT to give me a few examples of some self-refuting statements. Something like all truth is relevant. This is a contradiction because it claims a universal truth, that all truth is relative, but it would itself be an absolute truth if true. Okay, or how about that one you've heard before? You should never impose your beliefs on others. This very statement is a self-imposing, it's an imposing statement. It's imposing its belief on others. Okay. Okay, or how about only scientifically verifiable statements are true? Well, this claim cannot be scientifically verified, meaning it does not meet its own standard of truth. It is self-refuting. Or there are no universal moral principles. The assertion itself is a universal moral principle contradicting the claim. Okay, so you guys are getting the idea. And some self-defeating statements made against God and Christianity. I got some examples from ChatGPT. There is no truth in religion. So this statement claims to be a truth about religion. So it's defeating itself. If there's no truth in religion, then the statement itself cannot be true. Okay. How about the statement, you cannot know anything about God? Okay, if we cannot know anything about God, then how can the person making the statement know enough about God to assert this? So the statement assumes knowledge about God's unknowability, and this contradicts itself. Alright? All religions are equally false. I'm going to leave that one. Koukl deals with something similar at the end of his book. If God existed, he would make himself known to everyone. This assumes knowledge of what an infinite God would or should do. Yet the person making the claim often denies that such knowledge about God is possible. Okay, so you guys are getting the idea. Let's move on. Okay, essentially, these type of statements are saying that A is the case, but at the same time, A is not the case. Alright? So that's the essence of it. If the law of non-contradiction is violated by the idea, objection, or statement in a straightforward manner, then Koukl calls this the formal suicide. Let me read this quote. To recognize if a view has suicidal tendencies, first pay attention to the basic idea, premise, conviction, or claim. Try to identify it. Next, ask if the claim applies to itself. If so, is there a conflict? Does the statement itself fail to live up to its own standards? Can it be stated in the form of A is the case and A is not the case? If so, the statement is committing suicide. Okay, here's another way of looking at it. If exactly the same reasons in favor of another's view, or against your own view, defeat the reasons themselves, then the view is self-defeating. Alright, so the advice is to include the Colombo tactic, meaning when you've uncovered the suicide statement, then you don't have to declare it. You can ask questions to reveal it. Right? Okay, and the fact is, people actually don't like to believe contradictory things. It causes a sense of incongruity within yourself. And so what usually happens is that the contradictory beliefs that they're holding to are implicit. They're not that obvious. So it's necessary for you to listen and to take the time to try to help them find that implicit contradiction. Some examples of implicit contradictions that Koukl gives in the book. Is truth true? Okay? The statement obviously invites the question, is the claim itself true? If it's false, it's false. If it's deemed true, then it's false again. Also, the professor who said that no one can know truth because they are not God. Well, the professor also is not God. And therefore, if we hold to the professor's statement, then she actually cannot make that statement. Because it's a self-defeating statement. How about, can God make a rock so big that he can't lift it? So this question treats God as if he were two instead of one. The question itself is actually incoherent. You can't ask about God's omnipotence defeating his own omnipotence. Alright? And it's implying too, because is it bigger than him? Okay, I'm just going to read to you from the book quickly. So, asking if God can make a rock bigger than, that's too big for him to lift. This kind of challenge is called a pseudo-question. It's like asking, can God win an arm wrestling match against himself? Or can God beat himself up? Who would win? Can God's power defeat his own power? So this question is nonsense because it treats God as if he were two instead of one. The comparative phrase, stronger than, can only be used when two subjects are in view. Like when we say Bill is stronger than Bob, or my left arm is stronger than my right arm. But since God is only one, it makes no sense to ask if he is stronger than himself. Okay, how about God doesn't take sides? So if God himself agrees with me about that statement, then he's just taken a side. So then he does take sides, then the statement's wrong. So that's also a self-destructing statement. To err is human. This is another one that people tend to fall for. So some people will say things like, people wrote the Bible, people err, so I just can't trust the Bible. Okay, but by the same token, we also cannot trust the statement that was just made by an erring human being. Okay. Atman is Brahman and Brahman is Atman. The pantheistic monism of Hinduism teaches what they call Maya, that reality is actually an illusion and that each of us are part of this illusion. So this notion self-destructs because if I'm an illusion, then how can I know it? Because then I'm not in reality. Okay, in the same way Charlie Brown does not know that he's a cartoon character. The Hindu idea of the word being, the world being an illusion contradicts that I can know I'm a player in the illusion. So the implicit claim is that I'm not a real self and that I am a real self at the same time. So there's your contradiction. Okay, it's just self-refuting. Sometimes people who argue for this point try to say that, well, the law of non-contradiction is a Western construct. However, reality is structured according to the law of non-contradiction. For example, the binary system of computers works regardless of whether regardless of the religion of the person sitting in front of the computer, and regardless of which hemisphere on the planet it's in. Okay. Theistic evolution, it's pretty obvious that this doesn't stand because you can't have both the Big Bang and design. You can't have a designer using Big Bang. You can't have chance and design. They're contradicting each other. So either God designs the details of the biological world, or nature shuffles the deck and natural selection chooses the winning hand. The mechanism is either conscious and intentional, or it's unconscious and unintentional. Creation has a purpose and a goal. Evolution is accidental, like a straight flush dealt to a poker rookie. So there we have it. That one just doesn't stand. And how about only suicide gives reliable truth? So Koukl says that he noticed that the slogan, only science gives reliable truth, is a statement about truth that also purports to be true. So it includes itself in whatever it's referred to, in the same way that the statement, all English sentences are false, includes itself. So he applied the suicide tactic by asking, can the statement satisfy its own requirements? And he quickly realized that it could not, since there is no scientific evidence proving that science is the only way to know truth. The view self-destructs. Religious suicide, trying to say that all religions are true, is just a suicide statement. The statements made within those religions cannot all stand at the same time. For example, in Christianity, we do say that all other religions are false. So if all religions are deemed true, then there's error and clash and contradiction, and it just doesn't work. It self-destructs. And then this is a funny one. You are what you eat. Well, if this were true, we wouldn't be able to be something until we'd eaten something. Okay, that's just funny. All right, and here we are at the conclusion, which we covered up front. And so that is Chapter 7 of Great Koukl. Hope you guys enjoy it.